What's up guys, welcome back to the channel, and today I'm back with another video. But this time we're going to look at 3 different NBA legends who I believe are better suited for the modern NBA. And these 3 players have 3 very unique skill sets that I think would translate a lot better in this era than their own era. Now with me saying that, I'm not calling modern NBA trash, but I do think the NBA in 2021 has a few weak points that these guys would definitely expose. Now the first player on my list who I think would be better in the modern NBA is Larry Bird. And in my eyes, Bird is the best Celtic of all time, he's a top 10 player, pushing top 5, and I think overall, one of the most gifted offensive players the game has ever seen. And as you guys know, Bird played the majority of his career in the 1980s. And the one thing that always haunts me about Bird in his career is that in the 80s, teams did not take nearly as many threes as they take today. And actually in Bird's rookie year, that was their first year ever at the 3-point line. And in that season, teams took 2.8 per game compared to 2021, where they take 34.6. And Bird that year took a total of 74 threes. In 2021, Aaron Baines, a center, took 103 threes by himself. In 1980, the leader in 3-point attempts was Mike Bratz at 169. In 2021, Steph Curry took 801 threes. So obviously in the modern NBA, teams take a lot more 3-pointers compared to the 80s. But even with that being said, Larry Bird in his time was the best 3-point shooter and one of the best shooters of all time, period. And when looking at Larry's time in the NBA, it wasn't until the back end of his career where he started taking more threes. And from 1986 to 1992, he took more than 2 a game and shot 39.4%. And in 1988, Larry Bird took 237 threes. That was the 4th most in the NBA and the most he ever took in a single season. Now looking at 2021, the player who took the 4th most threes was Duncan Robinson at 613 on 8.5 attempts on 40.8% shooting. I think if you put Larry Bird in the modern NBA, he would easily take 8 to 9 threes a game and shoot upwards of that 40% mark. Now hypothetically speaking, let's say Larry Bird took 8.5 threes a game just like Duncan Robinson in his best year being 1988. If you do the math and translate those stats, with Bird shooting 39% from 3, he would average 32.2 points per game, which compared to the modern NBA will be first, just edging out Steph Curry. And if you look at the points breakdown, 16.2 of those points come from 2s, 10.5 from 3s, and 5.5 from the line. So when looking at Larry Bird's stats, I think in the modern NBA, he would actually have better numbers because he would take more 3s. It's really just simple math, and the fact that Bird is one of the best shooters of all time. Now obviously Larry Bird was a great shooter, on par with someone like Steph Curry, or Reggie Miller, even Klay Thompson, but also he was a great scorer, a great passer, and a very efficient player. So take all those skills and put him in the modern NBA, and Bird would arguably be the best player in the league, one of the best all-around players. And I think in the modern NBA, Bird could be a great small ball 5 or small ball 4. Throw in the added spacing, the lack of rim protection, worse defense, easier foul calls, and less physicality, and I think Bird would easily dominate the modern NBA, and he would actually be better than he was in the 1980s. Now moving on from Larry Bird, the second player we have is Michael Jordan, the player I believe is the greatest player of all time, also one of the most skilled players to ever play the game. And in today's age, there's a subset of NBA fans who think Jordan would not be a superstar or even a star in the modern NBA, and I 100% push back on those statements, as I think Jordan would actually be better in the modern NBA than he was in the 90s or even the 80s. And the one part of Jordan's game that gets critiqued a lot is 3-point shooting, and his detractors say he was never a good 3-point shooter. But actually in Jordan's prime, from 1989 to 1993, he was a good, even above average 3-point shooter. If you look at his numbers in the regular season, he shot 33.4%, which is higher than the 32.7% league average. In the playoffs, he shot 35.7%. In the NBA Finals, he shot 42.1%. So Jordan's 3-point shooting for the most part was average, and when it came to playoffs and the finals, he actually got better the deeper his team went. And when looking at Jordan's 3-point shooting stats-wise, in the regulation 3-point line, his best year was 1990, where he made 245 threes on 37.6% shooting. And he ranked 9th in attempts and 12th in makes. Now looking at the modern NBA, the player in the league who was 9th in attempts was rookie Anthony Edwards at 7.2 threes per game. So for argument's sake, let's say Jordan takes the same amount of threes as Anthony Edwards, a rookie in the modern NBA. If you look at his numbers taking that many threes, he would average 35.1 points per game if he gave the exact same shot attempts as in 1990. And his scoring breakdown would be 19.8 points on 2s, 8.1 on 3s, and 7.2 on free throws, which compared to his stats in 1990 would actually be better because of the added 3-point volume. And also, if you want to look to the playoffs, Jordan in 1993 shot 38.9% on 3s on 3.8 attempts. And if you convert those numbers, with him taking 27 shots a game, with 7 of those being 3s, he would average 36.4 points a game, with 21.2 of those being from 2, 8.1 from 3, and 7.2 from the line. So if you go the stats route for Jordan in the modern NBA, his stats would actually look a lot better than they were in the 1990s. But I think the strongest case for Jordan being better in the modern NBA is actually looking at the film and his overall game. Jordan in his time was an elite athlete, had a 48-inch vertical, and was lightning quick. He was a great mid-range shooter, he could shoot the 3, he was a great defender, he was clutch, and he could make free throws. And combine that overall skill set in the modern NBA with softer defense, hand checking being eliminated, cheap fouls getting called every single game, less protection at the rim, an open paint, and a wide open mid-range, and I think Jordan would thrive in the modern NBA. And specifically, I want to look at the mid-range shot for Jordan, which is his patented go-to move. And look at the modern NBA in recent history, we've seen players dominate off the mid-range shot, which supposedly is dead. But for the elite offensive players, the mid-range is still extremely valuable. Guys like Chris Paul, Kevin Durant, Kawhi Leonard have had historic playoff runs in large part due to the mid-range jump shot. And why that is because modern defenses allow players to take that shot. It's the crappy drop coverage where teams only guard the 3 or the paint and they leave the mid-range wide open. And for guys like KD, Chris Paul, and Kawhi, that is easy points every single night because teams leave it wide open. Now, the last point I'll make about Jordan is that in his era, he played against some of the greatest centers of all time who were great defensive players. You had Hakeem, David Robinson, Alonzo Mourning, Patrick Ewing, Shaq, Mutombo, Moses Malone, Kareem, Brad Daugherty, and even Robert Parrish. And in today's NBA, you simply don't have that depth at the center position or the big man spot. And with teams running small ball lineups, Jordan would feast in the paint, going against guys like Porzingis, Brook Lopez. Even Rudy Gobert would routinely get put on a poster if Jordan played against him. Nobody's stopping Jordan at the rim. He's a great finisher, he'd go around, over, or through you, and I don't see the modern bigs stopping Jordan from getting to the rim and scoring at will. So taking all into account, if you put a prime Jordan in today's NBA, who would shoot the 3, the mid-range, could attack the basket, he's extremely athletic, he would feast in this league and easily get 35 to 40 points every single night. Now the last player I want to look at who I believe will be better in the modern NBA is Pistol Pete Maravich. And Pete Maravich in his time is a 6'5" combo guard who was an elite scorer as well as passer. And if you go back and watch the games and the highlights, he was one of the few players in the 70s who was a showman and there to entertain the fans. And of course in college, he averaged 44.2 points per game and had an NCAA record 3,600 points. And he did that without any 3-pointers. And even with that being said, Pistol Pete in his time was still a great shooter from deep, in an era that despised his playstyle and the flashy nature of his game. And if you brought him to the modern NBA, where fans, coaches, and players embrace his playstyle, he would easily one of the best players and the best scorers in the entire league. And about 25 years ago, one of Pistol Pete's former coaches actually went back and watched his college games and recorded his shots if they had 3-pointers. And the games he watched, he said Pistol Pete scored 57 points per game. So that begs the question, how good would Pistol Pete be in the modern NBA with a 3-point shot? And actually, there's only one year where Pistol Pete played a 3-point line. That was in 1980, his last year in the NBA, where he took 21 total and made 12, for a shooting percentage just above 57. Now obviously that shooting percentage is not sustainable, and I don't think any player could shoot 50% from 3. But I do think it's a very small, very small sample size that shows that Pistol Pete could shoot 3-pointers at a very good clip. And I think most would agree he was an above average 3-point shooter. So looking at 2021, the league average in 3-point shooting is just over 36%. So let's say Pistol Pete is above that average, shooting 40 or 41%. That would mean that in his prime, taking 8 to 10 threes a game, he would easily crack the 30-point mark, and in his best year, he would push 35 points per game. And I think if you put Pistol in the modern NBA, he would be up there with the most exciting players in the league, along with Kyrie Irving as well as Steph. he would be must-see TV every single night because of his great shooting ability, how he could catch fire, and also his flashy passes and his overall showman style of play. So in conclusion, I think Pistol Pete will be better suited for the modern NBA as today's players, fans, and GMs understand his playstyle and they don't hate him for shooting 35-foot bombs. So that right there is the end of the video, and that was 3 players I believe will be better in the modern NBA. Let me know your guys' thoughts, and as always, thank you guys for watching, hope you enjoyed it. I'll see you guys next time.